This is Bob Palmer, and you're listening to ZoneTalk by Sport Excel, where the magic of the zone is a game changer. In every episode, we dive into the lives of high performers and learn their amazing strategies so that you can take leadership of your game, your team, and your life.
I'd like to welcome Sensei Heather Fidyk of the Shintani Wado Kai Karate Federation, where she is a Senate member on the governing body. She is also the Vice President of Karate Alberta and on the board of Karate Canada. She is a chartered professional coach, 6th degree black belt, a former national and international competitor. She has 7 programs under her nonprofit umbrella, South Calgary Wado Kai, and has graduated more than 75 students to black belt. She has an extensive list of accomplishments as a competitor nationally and internationally, both in her federation and for Canada, and has coached gold, silver, and bronze medal athletes over 7 years at the international level. She has hosted more than 25 tournaments, countless clinics, and was the first ever recipient in karate in Canada for the Petro-Canada Excellence in Coaching Award. She has raised 3 girls to adulthood and rides her motorcycle alongside her husband. Welcome, Sensei Heather.
Thanks, Sensei Bob. How are you?
I'm fantastic. This is it's been a great week. Absolutely. Can you tell me a little bit about your club and how you got started? You know, how many instructors you have, some of the structure of it?
Oh, definitely. So we started actually a couple clubs up in Edmonton while we were living there, and one in Edmonton and one in St. Albert. And then subsequently we moved to Japan, did the Teach English thing over there, and of course did karate and competed. And then coming back to Canada, we didn't know exactly where we wanted to live and ended up in Calgary. So after a short time in Calgary, it was time to start a karate club. And so we started the South Calgary Wado Kai Karate Club in 1994 and incorporated in 1996. So we're well into 25 years of this club with myself and my husband. The girls have all come up through the club. Our eldest daughter is a Nidan, 2nd degree black belt. Our middle daughter got up to brown, but she was a fairly heavy competitive gymnast, so that took precedent. And then our 3rd daughter is a Nidan as well, and she competes for Canada on the junior national team. And this time last year, we were at the World Championships in Chile.
Unfortunately, now with COVID, that your next trip to an international competition may be a little while.
Well, we've been really lucky. We're already back in the dojo, and we've had to do a lot of COVID things, and which has actually been really good because with so many instructors, not everybody gets a chance to teach as much, and we've really divvied up the tasks involved. So everyone's getting a lot more coaching experience, and I've kind of put my mask on and just sat back and done some of the mentorship since the fall began. So it's a different experience, but I think it's a very important experience.
In some ways, that's more difficult than actually teaching the class.
Oh, definitely is. Yeah.
So you have a nonprofit club. What does that mean exactly?
So when we started the organization, we could have incorporated and made it a business, but the nonprofit model was nice. You can still make money and that. And although I've been a volunteer for 25 years plus, thanks to my husband having a very good job that gives us enough income to support our let's call it a hobby. But with so many people going through the organization, and it gives us an opportunity to fund people who might not have an opportunity to travel. It gives us an opportunity to give back to the community in a lot of different ways. And so the nonprofit model worked for us. It doesn't work for everybody, but it definitely works for us.
So, how did you get into leadership? I know some people leave leadership to others and simply follow. And other people, it seems to be in their DNA. I mean, heck, nobody else is doing this. I want it done, so I do it. What's your experience there?
Actually, I was just doing a coaching course the other day And leadership is in the DNA, I think. Some people are just more apt to it, and some people are not. And in fact, in our family, I think we have 5 leaders, which doesn't tends to cause a little bit of chaos sometimes. Is like when it comes to organizing things. I think part of it is the firstborn. So I'm the eldest of a family of there's 3 of us, and so it tends to be the role of the eldest to be a little bit of a leader. Through school, I was always kind of one of those leaders, and growing up, and then in karate, moving up through that role, and then I think just having the being the matriarch of the family, and that we created leadership that way. In your daily kind of training environment, you become a leader, and then running the club, of course, attributes a lot of leadership skills.
So what do you find most challenging in your day-to-day club leadership roles? I mean, is that managing others or just managing students? What?
I don't think managing students or even the coaches and the instructors. I think most of them are all fairly motivated. So I guess managing. I do the administrative tasks and just day to day, and I don't mind it. I enjoy it. So it gives opportunities for other people to just either train, which we have lots of black belts that just want to train. We have students that want to excel and become national athletes and travel, and we have some that want to coach, some that want to instruct, some that want to officiate. It's really nice to have a whole, plethora of opportunities for people. We have people that do Shindo, which is a weapon that Sensei Shintani brought up, and
what is that? What is
Shindo? It's a short staff, and Sensei Shintani actually helped design it for some of the police work in Ontario back years and years ago. And I used to do a lot of Shindo, but I've got some health issues with my hands lately. But I've got a great group of black belts in our club that have taken over, and they are taking that tradition and the legacy of Shindo through our organization.
Okay.
And I find that it's a lot of our older students, or our younger students that are not interested in competition. They just want to do the traditional aspects of karate, are really interested in the Budo.
Okay.
So it's been really good that way.
Now you've been certified as in coach training in a very specific certification, and why'd you do that? I mean, what benefits have you achieved through that process?
The benefits have been great, actually. It's really opened my eyes to look across other sports and best practices in all different sports, team sports, individual sports, stuff outside of karate. And I've always been involved with a lot of sports, and I'm kind of fairly active all the time, so I can do almost anything. Surfing has been a very hard, challenging one. Never been able to surf properly. Can wakeboard or snowboard, but surfing is a little bit challenging. Anyways, I wanted to learn more about how to be a better coach and to communicate better practices, and not just the technical, tactical stuff that goes into coaching at a high performance level, but all of the soft skills. And I'm finding that I'm actually more attuned to a lot of the soft skills, and I still need to build on my technical, tactical at the high performance level. But
what
really
kind
and truly,
what kind of soft skills are you talking about?
Well, just things like remembering to make sure that you listen, that you are actively listening, not just kind of sitting there and pretending. Helping students create process goals and not to focus so much on the outcome goals. Things just as easy as just kind of knowing where they are, where they want to get to, and them as humans first, as opposed to just athletes first.
And in that program, do you get to actually mingle and meet other professional coaches from other sports, and you're not in an island. You actually get a chance to reach out beyond your particular sport. Is that right?
Oh, absolutely. So through the Coaching Association of Canada, they run a national coaching certification program. So I've been heavily involved in that, and now a learning facilitator and a coach evaluator. So I'm doing that as well. And then last year I was invited to the Petro-Canada Sports Leadership Summit in Vancouver, and it was amazing. Like there's like 1,000 people there, and you just got to interact, and it was amazing that you start walking around, you go, hey, I know you. We used to play hockey together. Hey, we used to go to school together. And then you start to talk to people. That I remember I was talking to the one fellow, and he actually came from an army background, and he was becoming he was a professional coach, but that was his background. And he was a really interesting person to speak with. And then, as it turns out, he was from Gatineau, and he knew his first karate coach is one of the coaches I coach with in Canada. So it's a small world when it comes down to it. Even though there's 1,000 coaches there, got to meet I was on a conference call not that long ago for women in sport, and Nick Nurse was our guest coach that came on, and he spoke about some of the stuff. And it was right around the time that all of the racial bias and stuff was going on, and so he spoke to that, and it was really interesting to hear that perspective from not just an elite level but a professional level coach. So yeah, it was really interesting. So having to make all of these connections across the board, you're all of a sudden you're a little fish in a big pond, and now wow, you get to swim around and meet all of these amazing and glean onto what they do, and it's been really exciting.
On a day-to-day basis, if you run into something that you need help with, could you actually access them? I mean, can you call somebody up and that you've had these conferences with? Is it that kind of relationship?
It is that kind of community. I might not be able to just give Nick Nurse a call, but no. You know what? I bet you if a lot of them we had a guest speaker the other day, Hadia Rodriguez, and she was a really impressive speaker, and got to listen to some of her stories of resilience and courage and that, and it was really good. It was empowering for me, so that and hopefully through me I can motivate some of our students and athletes that may come up against these types of challenges.
So talk about challenges. You're also coaching athletes with a disability.
Yeah.
How can you best describe that area of coaching for you personally?
It's amazing. It is. It's so exciting to see these people transform from just being a totally excited athlete to coming out of their shell and becoming absolute performers on the day of and winning. Like, it's absolutely incredible. One of our athletes, Natalie, who's also, I've known her for 20 some years, and she grew up through our club and our dojo, and then she was actually our first athlete with a disability to compete for Canada at the world level. And we get to Bremen, and she's like, decides she's nervous. This is the kid that can, go out in front of everybody and do fantastic and sing at church and do all sorts of things. And we get there, and she's standing around looking, and she's like, I forgot my kata. I'm like, what? You're a black belt. You've been doing this for like 10 years. Yeah, I forgot. And it was all just nerves. So that's where these soft skills come in, right? Like, what are you going to do? You're just going to make them do push-ups? Well, that's not going to solve the problem. You're going to yell at them? Well, that's still not going to solve the problem. So it was a huge challenge, and I had to be so creative and on the spot. and suppress everything that was inside of me and focus everything on her. So we only had an hour. I think we got through an active 10 minutes, and that was it. And the rest of it was all just putting things into perspective and understanding the reasons that she's here, going through all of her talents, coming up with words to inspire, thoughts to inspire. And so, yeah, it was, you have to be very creative on the spot, and you have to listen and stay in tune, because I've made my mistakes as well, right? You know, I've got, not every athlete is exactly the same, and these ones are even often athletes with disabilities are even more diverse. So it's definitely listening, watching, understanding, and then executing afterwards.
Natalie did quite well, did she not?
Yeah. So at that event, she did not. She placed right near the bottom, and in 2014. So, but that was actually good. There's more lessons in losing than there are winning often, right? And she came home with a vengeance and a purpose, and then all I did is have to give her the process. And after that, we got a few more athletes with disabilities. Patricia Wright, who became our first Canadian gold medalist, and in 2016, and another fellow, Simon, came on board. And so we took a team of 3 athletes with disabilities to Linz, Austria in 2018. And that's where Patricia won gold and Natalie won silver. It was absolutely incredible. We had 2 Canadian athletes competing head to head on the podium for first and second place.
Wow.
So unbelievable. And the following, and then in 2018, we were in Madrid, and they ended up getting split. So Patricia fought for gold and ended up winning silver, and Natalie had to fight for bronze and ended up winning bronze. So we had Canada twice on the podium. So, you know, it was amazing. And I think those 2 girls, or those 2 women, they have they compete against one another, not always in the healthiest way, but they do inspire each other in various ways, and it has created definitely an upward drive for them, and for them to achieve. It's amazing.
I mean, some people are afraid to have people compete to win because they lose. Can you speak to that? I mean, here's a young lady who lost and had more fire in her belly than she had before.
Exactly. It's like, you know, if you think about even teams like NHL teams or professional teams, they win the cup the year before. They're like, there's all these heavy expectations. Or if you win a gold medal at the Olympics, you know, previously, and you're there again, there's higher expectations on you. So there's people that are watching you. You have higher expectations on yourself. So there's that, being on the top and trying to stay on the top. But there's also this person that when you lose, you have to learn all of these lessons on how to win. So I want to win because this. And I think those are easier to overcome than it is to overcome if you are on top, and how do you stay on top. So a few lessons there. And Natalie came home, and I have to say, it was not me that motivated her. She came home with the motivation. She had the inspiration, and then I just kind of facilitated it. So yeah, it was an exciting time for us.
We had a young man in our club, very similar, and not only did it help him in karate, but he just everywhere in his life. I mean, he couldn't even look me in the eyes, and now you can't shut him up. He's such an engaging young man. Have you noticed that kind of thing in with these young ladies?
Well, even for Patricia, she has gone on to be a huge advocate and she's always been an advocate, but I think, these lessons that she learned when she was competing, she's brought back, and she has become a huge advocate for athletes with disabilities. She's on our Athlete Council for Karate Canada. She's also, dipping your foot into both coaching and officiating in Ontario. And she's an Ontario athlete, and so she's really, really working hard, and a great promoter. Some of the other athletes don't have perhaps those abilities or those opportunities, just given their various disabilities. But they have other abilities. So, for example, Natalie has gone on to help teach in our class programs and things like this. She's inspired a couple other athletes out west here that are now working towards their black belt. I'm thinking of one little fellow named Conrad, who's a brown belt out here in rural Alberta. And he trains in his basement with his mom. His mom is his instructor, and he is going to be an amazing athlete. He has competed at the junior nationals, because he just turned 18 recently. So he's competed at junior nationals, and he just gets up there, and we actually have to teach him not to smile when he's competing, because he's got this huge grin. And so I would show you my huge grin, but I have a little incident with my lip here. Lost a fight to a truck. So yeah, not like we were talking before. Things don't happen on the dojo floor. They happen just in life. So
you can't brag about this. I took this in a fight.
Yeah, no, truck door. Yeah.
So it sounds like you have a lot of creativity. Was that you, or did this program help you get that kind of creativity to work with all manner of karate students?
Actually, no. I've just always been really creative. Like my dojo instructors, the kids will be doing something, and you can tell you're reading it. It's just not going well. They're not focused. They're not engaged. They just ate 10 pounds of Halloween candy, and you have to change on a dime. And I have that ability to just change on a dime and re-engage them in maybe it's a fun activity that's still building their skills, but it'll just pop right into my head and it'll come out. And my instructors will look at me and go, "Where did that come from?" So, and actually, when it does come to some of the technical and tactical stuff, being creative is also really, really important, because if you all of a sudden are watching and something's not working right, maybe a transition in a cut is not working properly, and you have to kind of reverse engineer it, and then you finally get to the root of what it is, and whether it be biomechanical or mental, and then you have to forward revise it, and how can I be creative? So we stand against the wall. Do we use this tool or that, this person or another activity? Do we use a video? What kinds of things? And so from the technical end, it's also important to be creative as well, to figure out and problem solve.
And how does that work for getting your athletes ready to compete?
I'm learning. I'm still learning. Every day I'm learning, and mistakes are made here and there. A motivational word for one athlete works fantastic. You say the motivational word or the comment to another athlete and it backfires. Okay, just learned a lesson. Okay, how am I going to work this? And a lot of it comes down to knowing your athlete as well. And so that's that active listening process, and reading your athletes and things like that, and not being able to, or not putting everybody in the same round hole, because we're all square pegs.
Which allows for some creativity to overcome that squareness. Now, I once had a shoulder injury, and I taught myself in about 2 hours how to bowl with my left hand, or I had to sit on the bench and watch everyone. I understand you taught yourself how to play hockey as an adult, which is not common. What was that like? Well,
you know what? When we moved back from Japan, I was I was looking around. I'm like, oh man, I got to do something else. Not just karate. I got to be a little bit more multi faceted. So there was a sign that says girls play hockey, and I'm like, oh, okay. Well, I've always wanted to play hockey, so I phoned up the person, and I still keep in contact with this woman. She's a fair bit older now, but she was a huge inspiration for me. She said, just come out and try it. And actually, believe it or not, one of the shinny games that I just went on the open ice, Haley Wickenheiser, she was a young girl then, was on the ice, and I was completely just was like, wow, that was amazing. And she was a few years younger than me at the time, and she would have been in her early 20s at the time. So I'm like, okay, I'm going to try out for this team. I borrowed some my husband's equipment, and I'd worn figure skates, so I had to buy some hockey skates and had to buy a stick, and I could skate fairly well, but didn't know how to use the implement very at all, and I kind of knew the rules, and found out that you're not actually supposed to hit people in shinny. Learned the hard way, because you hit once, they hit you back, and they say there's no hitting. Oh, okay, yeah. So so it was good. And then I just continued on. I stayed on a team and moved up one division to a next division, and I'm at a place right now where we've had some coaches on the bench, but most of it has all been self-taught and peer-taught. So you listen to these other people that are on the bench and how they play and things like that, and that's a lot of how I've learned how to coach, as well as being mentored, and not direct mentorship, but peer mentored from people who are good at it.
Were you a good or bad student to yourself, and did it reveal any insights into you coaching beginners?
I'm always a little bit harder on myself than I'm harder on myself than I am on my students, actually. I think when I was younger, I was a little bit harder on the students, but I think I've mellowed a bit in my age, but that's okay, because I got the younger ones coming up, and they fill my mean shoes.
Very cool. You've had some. Do you have any mentors in terms of leadership? Do you have a specific role model, or are you multiple role models, or does anyone stick out?
Yeah, I have a few, actually. My husband's a huge role model for me. He's a very logical thinker. He says what he says, and I take the best from that and leave the rest. And Sensei Shintani was definitely a role model in perseverance and resilience, and how he persevered through the wartime camps. He was in the war camps in interior BC as a child, and through his resilience, he grew and started this amazing federation that I belong to. I have a couple other role models, especially on some of the technical end, is Katerina Vadavikova out of Quebec, and Pam Ross out of BC. They're very good technical coaches, really, really good. Their soft skills are good. They have a good rapport, and this is especially at the high performance level. I'm an excellent instructor. I'm a great lower level coach. But my high performance coaching skills are still developing, and those have been my peer supports for and mentors for that. It's been fantastic, and I got a few other ones, but those are the big focus ones.
How do you access them? I mean, do you ever sit back and say, okay, how would Sensei Shintani have done this, or how would Katerina do this, or I mean, what's your strategy for that, or is it just come?
A lot of it is reflective. So after an event or training session, I write some notes, and I won't go back to them right away. I'm more of a kind of a reflective person. I'll think about it. How and if I'm at a training session, say with Natalie, or even just in the dojo, I'll reflect and say, how could I do this different? And I don't always say, oh, how would he or she or they do it? It's more of, it'll just become a little bit more intuitive. The one thing that I think is always important is to always recognize those people. And it doesn't always have to be an outward recognition, but, because some of my students might not know who that person or this person is. But I think recognizing and acknowledging where that information came from is important. Mm-hmm. So, I've used you as an example. As we'll be doing some prep work and mental prep work before an event, and I go, well, Sensei Bob, and we always say Sensei Bob. Sensei Bob says that this will work for this in this case. Why don't we try some of the tools that he's provided? So I think acknowledging that it's not my intellectual property, so to speak, it's where it came from, I think is important.
Cool. One last question. For anyone in a coach leadership role, do you have one last piece of advice?
Let's see. Couple things. Being a coach is not always about being technical and tactical. It's really important about having some of those soft skills like respecting, listening, communicating. Those ones are really, really important. Focusing on things that the athletes can do and not what they can't do. And this is particularly important at the very, very beginning when you're starting either in a yearly training plan or with a beginner or anything like that. Even preschoolers. I had actually a really interesting conversation with a mom the other day, and she's, my son, all he does is crawl on the floor. He's 3.5. And I'm actually not in the class because it's not part of my cohort, but I go there and I have my mask on and I'm in the corner usually. And I said, that's okay, because he's learning to explore his environment the way he wants to. And he will eventually join in, because the first 3 days, the whole month of September, all I did was sit beside you on the floor. And everybody will come at their own time. So just let them do their own thing. And remember that it's fun. So promote the funness in it. It's not about, the skill acquisition, especially when you're 3.5 years old. And even at the beginning of a yearly training plan is just, what can they do? Well, they can do this and they can do this. Okay, let's explore that. And then we start building and building. And then at the end, if you focus on the things that they can't do, well, they're not going to do the things that they know how to do really well. Yeah. And so those are a couple pieces of advice. And I think just remember that people start sports and continue sports as lifelong things because it's fun. They're not, sometimes it's a paycheck, but it's not for me. It's all about the fun.
They love it.
Yeah.
Well, thank you very much, Sensei Heather. It's been a pleasure speaking with you, and I've learned so much, and I look forward to having this conversation in the future again.
Well, thank you so much, Sensei Bob, and it was great, and it was a great honor to be able to chat with you and talk about my journey.
Thank you. We'll talk to you soon.
Okay, bye-bye.
Bye.
This episode of Zone Talk by Sport Excel has ended. But be sure to subscribe and be sure to rate and review us so that we can continue to bring you the best zone and high performance content. See you on the next episode.